Have you ever wondered where the true darkness within someone comes from? Every villain starts somewhere, but some are born from the deepest darkness. This is the beginning of the story of the Son of Darkness, a character who didn't become dark overnight, but was shaped by events few could endure. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now could completely change the way you understand a villain's journey in the anime universe. Imagine a life surrounded by pain, injustice, and loneliness, where every genuine smile is rare and every friendship seems an impossible luxury. It was in this scenario that the Son of Darkness began to feel, for the first time, the weight of the world on his young shoulders. From an early age, he realized that the world isn't always fair, that people can hurt without realizing it, and that sometimes the purest dreams can be crushed by forces no one can control. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling that no matter how hard you try, everything around you conspires against you. That's exactly how he felt, and that's when the seed of darkness began to grow, silent, almost imperceptible, yet incredibly powerful. It's not just villainy for power or ambition. What makes the Son of Darkness so fascinating is that his transformation begins with something deeply human: pain, fear, abandonment. Every hostile look, every betrayal, every moment he was ignored or misunderstood became fuel for the fury he felt inside. And it's precisely this internal struggle that creates the most unexpected connection with the audience. However dark he becomes, there's something in his story that evokes empathy, something that reminds us that we all, at some point, have felt a hint of darkness within ourselves. The beginning of his journey is marked by small details that seem insignificant but carry a devastating emotional intensity. An encounter that changed everything, an irreparable loss, a difficult choice that no one else could understand. And it is at this moment that we realize that darkness doesn't arise out of nowhere. It grows from real experiences, from invisible wounds that become scars on the soul. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because every step he took toward the dark side was, in fact, a response to the injustices and pain he'd carried since childhood. As we watch the Son of Darkness take his first steps toward something greater, something darker, we feel a mixture of fear and fascination. Fear of what he might become, and fascination with understanding the reasons that led him down this path. And it is this tension, this contrast between the humanity he still carries and the darkness growing within him, that keeps the audience glued to the screen, curious to discover how far he will go. Stay with me, because the next part reveals the exact moment when this transformation begins to become inevitable, when childhood and trauma meet choices that will define the rest of his life. So as we approach this crucial point, we can sense the atmosphere charged with mystery and suspense. Every shadow, every lost glance, every silence that seems to scream something unspoken brings us closer to the true essence of the Son of Darkness. He is still young, vulnerable, but there are already clear signs that the path he treads is not ordinary, not simple, and certainly not one that will be easily forgiven. The tension grows, and with it, curiosity. What truly awakens the darkness within someone? And what drives a seemingly ordinary soul to become a force everyone fears? As the story begins to unfold, every detail, every gesture, and every decision matters. It's at this point that you realize that the onset of darkness isn't just an isolated moment, but a series of interconnected choices, emotions, and experiences ready to explode into something greater. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next section, revealing the first signs that the Son of Darkness is about to embark on a path of no return. And it's precisely at this point that the story begins to deepen, revealing not only the events, but also the emotions that shape each choice of the Son of Darkness. Every gesture, every lost look, every decision made under pressure reveals layers of his personality that no one could imagine at first glance. And this is where I want to invite you to join me on this journey. If this topic resonates with you, leave here in the comments what has touched you most so far. Perhaps it's a memory from your own childhood, an experience that made you feel wronged, or even the realization of how small choices can shape who we become. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who also connect with this kind of intense and emotional narrative. While you're sharing your thoughts, you can also like the video if you're feeling that connection, because every like helps keep this story alive and bring content like this to more people seeking to understand the rise of complex, dark and fascinating characters. And of course, subscribing to the channel ensures you won't miss the next chapters of this journey. Each episode is designed to show details ranging from childhood to the first steps toward complete darkness. It's like being inside the character's mind, feeling every doubt, every fear, and every impulse that slowly transforms him. So, as you reflect on what you just saw and share your experience in comments, let's continue exploring this dark universe, uncovering the defining moments that began to shape the Son of Darkness irrevocably. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because understanding the true essence of the Son of Darkness goes far beyond simply knowing that he became a villain. He didn't start out dark, nor did he carry from birth the aura of fear and power that everyone associates with him. What makes his story so fascinating is the gradual, almost silent, transformation that began in childhood and unfolded through decisions, experiences, and moments no one else could comprehend. Each step of his journey reveals hidden layers of his mindset, and it is precisely this complexity that arouses such fascination. Imagine a young mind dealing with traumas that defy comprehension, learning that every choice has a direct impact on who he would become. It's not just about revenge or ambition. It's about understanding the hidden truth behind every action, the weight that intense experiences have on shaping character and behavior. He began to realize, very early on, that the world works in cruel ways, and that vulnerability can be exploited by those around him. And it was at this point that small, seemingly simple, decisions began to have enormous consequences, shaping not only his actions, but the entire trajectory of his life. The anime universe gives us the chance to see these nuances, to follow behind the scenes of a transformation that is as psychological as it is epic. Every interaction, every seemingly mundane situation, carried revelations capable of shaking his worldview and intensifying the shadow growing within him. The Son of Darkness's journey is, above all, a lesson in how circumstances, choices, and one's own mindset can intertwine almost inevitably, building what many would call a dark destiny. And while he was still just a boy, the seeds of what was to come were quietly sown, paving the way for decisions that would change everything. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but every detail of his childhood, every feeling of injustice or abandonment, formed the foundation for who he would become. With each step, with each thought, the impact of these experiences became more evident, revealing layers of his personality that can only be understood by observing the entire journey. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. If you feel that these choices and transformations make sense within his story and the complexity surrounding the beginning of darkness. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because to truly understand the Son of Darkness, we need to look at the traumas and experiences that shaped his mind from his earliest years. It's impossible not to feel the pain he experienced. Every emotional wound, every moment of abandonment or rejection acted as a silent catalyst for the darkness growing within him. He wasn't just a child facing ordinary hardships. He lived in a world that seemed to conspire against his happiness, where small acts of cruelty or carelessness accumulated and left deep scars on his mind. Every decision that seemed trivial to those who observed him carried immense weight for him, And the impact of these experiences began to shape not only his personality, but also the way he viewed reality and the people around him. The Son of Darkness's childhood was marked by moments that, at first glance, might seem like small details, but which, in fact, served as true revelations about the fragility and complexity of life. Each loss, each betrayal or disappointment became an essential part of his transformation, building an emotional foundation that would later be the driving force behind his dark choices. It's fascinating to observe how seemingly insignificant experiences can have such a profound effect on character development. And it's precisely at this point that we begin to understand the nature of the darkness within him. It's not simply a matter of evil or ambition, but a reaction to a world that constantly tested his limits. And it is precisely in this context that empathy emerges naturally. Even knowing he would become a villain, we can see the human side, the pain and internal conflicts that led him to cross the line between innocence and darkness. Each trauma functions as an element of his journey, and understanding these behind-the-scenes moments helps us see the motivations that many ignore or judge superficially. The transformation he undergoes is not immediate. It is a slow progression, driven by concrete experiences, difficult decisions, and moments of emotional isolation that left indelible marks on his psyche. Now, as we reflect on how these early experiences shaped the foundation of her darkness, we can see that every trauma, every small injustice, was essential to the construction of her complex and fascinating personality. Write down, "This makes sense to me," if you can feel the intensity of this journey and understand how childhood events can so profoundly impact someone's transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it is at this moment that the Son of Darkness's transformation begins to take on clearer and more inevitable contours. And then something happened that changed everything. He saw the world in a way no one else could understand. It was no ordinary event, nor a simple disappointment. It was a profound shock, an instant in which reality revealed its cruelest face, exposing hidden truths he had previously been unable to see. This initial brush with darkness not only awakened his dark side, but also planted seeds of insight into power, control, and survival that would shape his every decision from then on. Imagine looking at people, at your surroundings, and realizing that nothing is exactly as it seemed, that every gesture can hide dangerous intentions, and that too much trust can be deadly. For him, the darkness wasn't just external. It was a reflection of what was growing within him, a profound psychological impact that began to transform his mindset. Every thought, every reaction became calculated, strategic, because he realized that only by understanding the shadows around him could he survive and even thrive. The hidden truth that revealed itself in that moment wasn't comfortable. It was a shock that exposed weaknesses, but it also opened space for an unexpected strength to emerge, a strength he still barely understood. What makes this stage so fascinating is that there's not only suffering, there are also revelations about choices and consequences, about how small decisions can alter an entire trajectory. The first contact with darkness is almost like a silent rite of passage, where innocence blends with an awareness of the harshness of the world, and where the emotional impact leaves scars that will never be erased. It's as if every detail of this moment was carefully designed to set the stage for what would become next, connecting past traumas to future decisions and gradually revealing the complexity of their transformation. As he faces this awakening, we begin to see how every aspect of his journey is interconnected. Pain, learning, strategy, and emotion intertwine, revealing that the darkness within him didn't emerge from nowhere, but rather the result of a series of accumulated experiences and choices. It's at this point that the story gains intensity and depth, revealing the behind-the-scenes story of a transformation that is both psychological and epic. Comment below, I'm on this journey too, if you can sense the tension and significance of this first encounter with darkness and how it began to redefine everything in the Son of Darkness's life. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic because it is precisely here that the true impact of the Son of Darkness's transformation begins to reveal itself. The internal conflict. It's not just about facing enemies or external circumstances. It's a constant battle within his own mind, where anger, sadness, frustration, and a desire for revenge intertwine in ways that defy any superficial understanding. He learns, often painfully, that every emotion can be a tool or a trap, and that how he deals with these feelings defines not only who he is, but also who he will become. What's fascinating about this phase of his journey is observing how his mindset develops amidst this internal turmoil. He realizes that anger can be fuel, but also poison. That sadness reveals vulnerabilities, but also sparks reflection and strategies, and that the desire for revenge, when understood and controlled, can become a force that shapes decisions with almost surgical precision. It's as if each feeling is a mirror, revealing hidden aspects of his personality, revealing truths he himself didn't even know existed. The internal struggle isn't just dramatic. It's essential to building his character because every great villain's rise comes from an intense psychological battle, the kind that shakes every layer of the soul. It is in this context that the first revelations about his strategic and calculating behavior emerge. He begins to understand that it's not enough to react to circumstances. He must anticipate, plan, transform pain into action and emotion into decision. Each internal conflict is a silent training session for the mind, a way to strengthen resilience and refine the perception of the impact of one's choices. The intensity of this psychological battle is not visible to outsiders, but it is absolutely crucial for the evolution of his personality and the path he will take toward darkness. As he navigates this complex mix of feelings and perceptions, we begin to see how a villain's rise isn't a sudden leap, but a continuous process of decisions, reflections, and internal transformations. It's at this point that the story gains depth that goes far beyond the surface, revealing the behind-the-scenes construction of a dark and strategic mind. Write it down. I'm on this journey too, if you feel the intensity of this internal struggle and can see how it begins to define the Son of Darkness's every step. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this is where the Son of Darkness's first steps into the shadow begin to become visible, and each small action reveals the impact of his inner transformation. He was still just a boy, but each decision brought him closer to the darkness. And even seemingly small gestures carried weight and consequences far greater than he could have imagined. His mindset began to be shaped by questionable choices, where right and wrong blended almost imperceptibly, and each step into the shadow was a silent practice of strategy, patience, and awareness of the world around him. What's fascinating is that these first dark actions didn't arise from a pure desire for evil, but rather from necessity, survival, and, above all, from the attempt to control something that seemed uncontrollable. He learned, often painfully, that the impact of each decision could alter his own trajectory and, at the same time, affect those around him. It was an intense learning experience, full of revelations about power, consequences, and how darkness begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, before becoming something dominant and uncontrollable. By observing these moments, we see the behind-the-scenes story of his transformation, the construction of a strategic mind, the way past experiences shape every thought, and how the need to protect and assert oneself can lead someone down morally ambiguous paths. Each step in the shadows is, in fact, a piece of the journey of self-discovery and power-building, where complex emotions mix with calculated decisions, creating a cumulative effect that pushes the narrative towards something much larger. And it's precisely this duality, between the vulnerability of being just a boy and the strength that begins to emerge from his dark choices, that creates curiosity and tension, showing that the darkness within him is not an accident, but a natural consequence of his emotional and psychological evolution. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. If you can feel the intensity of these first actions in the shadows and understand how each decision began to shape the son of darkness. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because the son of darkness's transformation didn't happen in isolation. It was shaped by the influences of other characters, both allies and enemies, who served as catalysts for his dark evolution. Each interaction carried impact and revelations, showing how relationships, conflicts, and even small provocations could profoundly alter his mindset. He learned to read intentions, anticipate moves, and realize that even those who seemed like friends could become obstacles, while unexpected enemies offered valuable lessons in power, strategy, and emotional resilience. The impact of these relationships on the character's development is fascinating, revealing the complexity of his journey. Popular manga critics and analyses have pointed out how the presence of central figures in a character's life is essential to understanding their future choices. Each encounter is not simply a scene of confrontation or alliance, but a moment of silent learning that contributes to their gradual transformation. They absorb, process, and transform each external stimulus into a decision, shaping not only their actions, but also their perception of themselves and the world around them. It's striking to see how the influence of other characters serves as a mirror of their own emerging darkness. An ally can demonstrate loyalty, but also raise doubts. An enemy can instill fear, but also awaken strength and creativity to overcome obstacles. Each relationship serves as a framework for transformation, a mechanism that reveals the hidden truth about how power and shadow can intertwine too. Create a memorable villain, and it is in this interplay of interactions, tension, and constant learning that we begin to understand the complexity of their personality, demonstrating that darkness arises not only from trauma or individual decisions, but also from the impact of those who cross their path. As he absorbs these lessons and grapples with the effects of these relationships, we see how his journey becomes increasingly strategic and calculated, connecting emotional experiences to decisions that will define his future. Write down, I'm on this journey too, if you can sense how external influences began to shape the son of darkness and drive his transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the son of darkness's turning point is where his entire transformation begins to crystallize. Until then, he had walked among the shadows, testing his limits, learning to deal with internal and external conflicts. But something happened that changed everything irrevocably. An unexpected, intense, and emotionally charged event capable of shattering any remaining shred of innocence. It is at this moment that he realizes, with absolute clarity, that the world will not be shaped by kindness or hope, but by the power of his own decisions. Every detail of this moment, from glances, gestures, and silences to confrontations and losses, contributes to revealing the hidden truth that has always been present. The darkness within him was not a momentary choice, but a path that became inevitable. The impact of this event is profound and immediate, shaking his mindset and reinforcing the need for strategic and cool-headed action. He feels anger, pain, and frustration, but also a newfound clarity about how to use these emotions to his advantage. It's almost as if an invisible lens has been placed over his perception of the world, allowing him to see intentions, weaknesses, and opportunities where before there was only confusion and fear. Every decision made in this moment carries immense weight, and the transformation is no longer merely internal. Now, his actions begin to reflect externally, showing clear signs that the villain's rise is already underway. By observing this shift, we begin to understand how key events, allies or enemies, past traumas, and his own internal struggle intertwine to construct a narrative of power and shadow. The tension is palpable, and each choice made in this moment determines the next steps in a journey that becomes increasingly strategic, calculated, and unpredictable. He is no longer just a child dealing with trauma. He is someone who understands the impact of every action and the need to control his own destiny. As the turning point solidifies and the transformation becomes visible in every gesture, thought, and reaction, we realize the depth of this journey and how each experience accumulated thus far creates a solid foundation for the decisions that will shape his darkness. Comment below, this makes sense to me if you can sense the intensity of this turning point and understand how he began to become the villain everyone would come to know. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because reflecting on the Son of Darkness's darkness allows us to see him beyond the villainous figure, revealing layers of humanity that often go unnoticed. He shows us that even darkness is born of something human, of experiences, emotions, and decisions that we all, on some level, are capable of understanding. Every pain he carried, every trauma he faced, and every dark choice he made are not just elements of his story. They are reflections of how extreme circumstances can shape someone's mind and personality, transforming vulnerability into strength, fear into strategy, and suffering into resolve. By observing his trajectory, we begin to realize that a villain's rise isn't simply about ambition or innate evil, but about the complex interplay of past experiences, internal conflicts, and external influences. The darkness he embodies is, in fact, the result of a series of emotional and psychological impacts, where each moment lived leaves deep scars, shaping his mindset almost inevitably. Understanding this helps us build empathy, not to justify bad actions, but to comprehend the journey behind each decision and the impact that trauma and challenges can have on character development. Furthermore, this reflection allows us to glimpse the behind-the-scenes nature of transformation, the silent struggle that occurs within the mind, the strategies that arise from the need to survive and assert oneself, and how each emotional reaction becomes a tool or an obstacle. It's fascinating to see how the complexity of the character's psychology connects with his journey, demonstrating that nothing happens by chance, and that each moment of darkness carries within it a story of learning, pain, and growth. As he faces this darkness, we can sense the tension between the human and the shadowy, between vulnerability and emerging power, and realize how this duality is essential to understanding his full journey. Write it down. I'm on this journey too, if you can see the humanity behind the darkness and sense the depth of this transformation that goes far beyond what meets the eye. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because by recapping the Son of Darkness's journey thus far, we can see how complex and strategic the construction of his darkness was. From his trauma-filled childhood, through his first encounter with his shadow self, to his internal conflicts and first questionable choices, each step revealed nuances of his personality and showed how experiences, external influences, and impactful decisions shaped his mindset. He didn't become a villain by chance. Every gesture, every reaction, and every silent lesson learned behind the scenes of his story were crucial to consolidating his transformation, connecting emotion, reasoning, and strategy in an almost inevitable trajectory. What makes this journey fascinating is realizing how darkness and humanity coexist within him, how each trauma and each relationship contributes to the construction of a strength that simultaneously awakens empathy and fear. The Son of Darkness's transformation is not only external, visible in actions that shock and dominate, but also internal, a psychological evolution that reflects conscious decisions, strategic insights, and a deep understanding of the impact of each choice. The journey thus far allows us to see the hidden layers of his personality, revealing that behind the shadow lies a continuous process of learning, adaptation, and revelations that define his trajectory. Now, as we prepare to move forward, we can feel the growing tension that accompanies his evolution, the weight of each accumulated experience, and the emergence of skills and strategies that will begin to make him feared and respected. It is at this point that the story intensifies, opening space for new discoveries about power, control, and mastery, which will reveal even more about his mind and his decisions. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. If you feel the impact of each stage of the Son of Darkness's transformation and want to closely follow how his ascension begins to become a reality. If you've made it this far, it means you've truly immersed yourself in the story of the Son of Darkness and followed every detail of his transformation, which already shows how this journey can teach us about choices, impact, and the evolution of mindset. If this conversation resonated with you, leave a comment like, "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me." It's always incredible to see people who truly connect with each stage of this narrative. And if you felt this connection, give the video a like. It's not just a number. It's a way to show that these stories, analyses, and reflections truly make a difference to those watching, and it helps us continue bringing you content that explores the behind-the-scenes, transformations, and decisions of complex characters like this one. There's a video here that complements this topic, where we'll follow how the Son of Darkness begins to gain power and become feared by all. Click and stay with me there, because the story is just beginning, and the revelations that follow will show each step of this villain's rise in intense and detailed detail.